Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of Kerbal Space Program. So last we left off, we were making a little ship that will be able to put a satellite in a specific orbit of Minmus. So what I want to do is to make it more of a satellite, we're going to need to add a probe core so it becomes a satellite and not just space debris. And then, of course, add, ooh, that's a big fuel tank. I want a smaller fuel, no, that's too big. Smaller fuel tank, just to make sure that it doesn't go off orbit. So here we are. Here is our, this will be our little satellite. It has way beefier antennae than it needs, but you know what? Whatever. It's my satellite. I can cry if I want to. The radial decouplers. Let's get some asparagus staging. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably going to... Does any of these fit? How big are these? Oh god, these are massive. Yeah, they're all too big. What I was going to say is I'm probably going to add a larger amount of fuel on these, and then let's put some swivels there. And at the top, we'll have these advanced nose cones that can turn an edgy black color. And we will set up the asparagus staging as such. So yes, I could be easily landing on Minmus on this mission, but I'm trying to follow my milestones. And my milestones want me to just fly by it. So that's fine. We'll do a little flyby, setting up a satellite in the process. All right. I don't know. We will have to set up the asparagus staging, but for now, I'm just gonna slap some struts here so they don't go all wobbly on me. All right. The asparagus staging getting set up now, and then of course the probe's engines I don't want firing up. I don't want to use up its fuel source. So let's see. We are staging 4 to 3. So this is this rocket to this rocket. And I'm just looking. I just put the decouplers on random stages, and then I will add fuel ducts that are appropriate. So 4 fuels, as you can see, 4 here. 4 fuels to 3, 3 fuels to 2. And then we have our beautiful, they're all set up. All right, next up, we are going to, you know, I haven't ever used a decoupler like this before. The last time I played Kerbal Space Program, those decouplers weren't in. All right, it's gonna be easier just to move that whole stage down. And then, unsurprisingly, using some kickbacks. And I'll probably add as many kickbacks as I can, and while it's functional. So fixing the stage so that the kickbacks are at the bottom. And actually, all of these decouplers can be on the swivel stage. All right, and these have a thrust to weight of 1.7, meaning that I can get away with adding even more thrust if I want to. More kickbacks. I can add kickbacks until my thrust to weight is 1.10 or 1.01 rather. Not that I'm planning on it, but I'm just saying it's feasible. So let's see. If I add the radial decouplers here, they're a little awkward to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do one of these, and then I'll mirror it around. That way they can remain the same. Okay, and what I'm probably going to lower it a bit. There we go. And then what will this need is a strut up here. And a strut down here. And hopefully there'll be enough thrust to weight ratio to get these working. We'll see, we'll see. Alright, let's mirror this around, as I said. Oh, they're not mirroring correctly. There we go. We just have to rotate them. Oops. That's the wrong kind of rotate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Is that correct? I don't know. Look, it looks good enough to me. Now we have to restrut up the center core and check my thrust to weight. Oh, those already look strutted. Oh, I think I already had struts in here that were just like left over. Okay. And my thrust to weight ratio is really good. Wow. Now I'm sort of curious if I remove all of the outside ones, it will just, it'll be more efficient with barely enough thrust to get off the ground. But that's probably what I'm looking for. So let's see this show. Yeah. This is the bare minimum thrust to weight ratio, and I'm absolutely going to fire off like this because it will look funny. Yeah, we have barely above a 1. So yeah, this will look funny. But why not? Why not have a little humor in our ships? And I probably want a control surface. You know what? Let's try it without. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and launch. This thing is a true and honest behemoth. Yep, so this is what a 1.02 thrust to weight ratio looks like. Where we are climbing, but I wouldn't say we're climbing fast. We're the little engine who could barely. We launched, oh man. Yeah, we're barely moving. I think what's important is that we get at least like 2 kilometers, 2.5 kilometers away from Kerbal Space Center, because what ends up happening is once you're, I forget the exact distance, but once you're a certain distance away from an object, physics no longer apply. So if I had these fuel pods that will be jettisoned soon, dropping on Kerbal Space Center, as long as we're like over 2 kilometers away, they won't do damage. But they would do damage if we were closer. So you want to get kind of far away. I mean, it's a little weird, right? The concept that things can't be damaged if you're not close enough to look at them. You know, the sort of, does a bear poo in the woods? And the answer is no. Like, if you're too far away from the object, it doesn't apply physics. Oh, and this is going to be a flippy floppy. All right. Flippy floppy. Definitely going to redesign this a little bit. That's because the center of thrust and center of mass are so misaligned. And there's not enough control surfaces to prevent that from happening. I don't really have any good winglets here, though. That's the problem. I'm sort of curious if dropping some mad winglets here, if we can stop the flippy floppies. But like I said, I don't have a lot of surface here, so it's possible not. We'll just test it. This is, of course, one big weird Minmus probe experiment. I'm going to try to accelerate physics here, which is probably a very, very bad idea for large crafts. As you can see, my winglets are trying to... Yep, they actually managed to stop my spin pretty quickly. But can they stop the flop? I'm not sure. They might not have enough surface area to stop the flop. And that sort of flopping will happen a lot. Does happen a lot. Nope, stay on target here. Yep, it's trying to flop, and I'm fighting it as a pilot. I'm using my WASD keys to try to recenter it. Once we are higher up in the atmosphere, the chance of flopping goes down a lot because the air is thinner, and physics are a little bit different as a result. Let's see if I can tilt to 90. I might be pushing it here. Yep, I'm tilting towards 90, and we're not flopping yet. We're actually moving so fast through the atmosphere. We're getting some aerodynamic burn. Sick burn, bruh. Alright. Our APO is way high, so I can wait very comfortably until I'm in orbit, or at least in space, to start circularizing. I didn't wait for the right time to launch for a Minmus intercept. Because it's on an axis, and you would want to launch where you can fix your axis. But whatever. I have extra fuel, so I will use it. Alright, so this gets me circularized, and let's see if I can't change my tilt a little bit to match Minmus a little bit better. 6.0 is, I think, probably the closest I'm going to get. So node in 1 minute and 40. Burn time is going to be a minute and a half. So 45 seconds out of node, I will fire it up. There we go. Nice and centered. We're high up in space. And I'll fire it up just a little early. Looks like we're going to need to ditch one of these halfway through the burn. There's our circularization burn, and then we're going to have to match the plane of Minmus so we can do a transfer. Now, the pilot I rescued last episode, the matching the plane was more important there. Minmus has a sphere of influence and gravity on all that. So even if I don't have it perfectly, I can set myself to orbit. You can't orbit around ships. You can orbit around moons, but not ships. Ships don't have a sphere of influence. Ships don't have enough gravity to allow you to orbit or anything like that. So, you know, rendezvousing with a spacecraft that mimics the orbit of Minmus is a lot more difficult than rendezvousing with Minmus, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And failing. So, yep. This is a good way to tell that I'm meeting all my requirements. Materials bay, thermometer, mystery goo. It needs to be unmanned. A new unmanned probe. So, new meaning like you don't just recycle something you already have in space. Unmanned probe meaning that there's no person on board and there's a probe core. It can't just be an empty command pod. That won't work. Alright, we are circularized. I'll spare myself the extra fuel. And now we'll match the tilt. As you can see, this will cost me a little bit of fuel to do. 235 delta V. And if I chose the right moment, if I chose when KSC was over this point here, I could have spared myself the 235 delta V cost of matching a tilt. The greater the tilt, the more costly it becomes. So, for instance, if it's a polar, like if for some reason Minmus was on a polar orbit around Kerbal, you would really have to do it correctly, because you can't just go from orbiting the equator to orbiting the poles without an insane amount of power and fuel. Yeah, don't do that to yourself. So when you're accepting missions like putting a satellite into polar orbit, you're not going to tilt to 90. Absolutely, that's a terrible idea, because a polar orbit is flying around the North and South Pole, and tilting to 90 gets you around the equator. And no one wants to pay you money for a polar satellite that analyzes equators. In fact, if you're orbiting the equator, you quite literally will never go over the poles. All right, we're about to lose another fuel pod. Bye-bye, fuel pod. And now we have an extraordinarily wonky and somewhat hard to control double rocket with 3.2k delta V. All right, so now we've matched the plane of Minmus, and now I just have to create a transfer burn to get us there. And this will actually be the first time going to Minmus, so although I'm being paid to do it, I don't mind. All right. What I'm doing now is just trying to make minor adjustments so that we have the periaps here not so far away from the planet. But Minmus is weird, where it doesn't require a lot of fuel to really adjust anything there. It's such a small little satellite. All right, now we have a maneuver, and I want to warp to next maneuver. Burn time 44 seconds. So T-minus 22, and I'll go. And we'll make 22 come a little faster. So the next trick is we have to put our satellite in a very specific orbit of Minmus, within a few degrees of error. It doesn't have to be picture perfect, but within a few degrees of error to accomplish this mission here. And the reason why I took this mission is we have a contract, a milestone contract. And when I say milestone contract, I mean one that you can't decline, one that when you do it will unlock future missions, future mission types. So a milestone might be get to space. You're not going to get space missions unless you've made it to space already, right? You know, I'm not getting Duna or Ike missions until I've established that I can do everything on Mun and Kerbal and Minmus. So my intercept here is looking real wonky, but I think that's fine. I'm going to warp ahead a little bit. The periaps, I can't really see it at the moment. Yeah, we're doing a really, really close pass here. In fact, I might want to adjust it a little bit. It looks like it's a collision. You know, I'm fine with that. Actually, Minmus is one of these, one of the only satellites where, like, a near collision doesn't require a lot of fuel to correct. So, first Minmus intercept here. Yeah, we have a really, really weird periapts. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we just did the flyby Minmus, is I've got 2 hours until we really get that close. So let's go to the Space Center and see if we can't pick up some additional Minmus missions, like getting science around the orbit of Minmus or something like that, because that will be very, very, very easy for us to do. I will take and explore the Mun. Oh, rendezvous 2 vessels in orbit of the Mun is not really the same as exploring it, but alright. Rescue someone from orbit of the Mun. Okay, I'll accept that. I'm going to cancel a few missions here. Oh, recover a craft from orbit of Mun. That's even harder. Plant flag on Minmus. I'll accept that. Gathering data from the surface of Minmus. I have space for one more contract. Come on, give me something like gathering science from orbit around Minmus. Come on. Space around the Mun. Alright, fine. Whatever. I guess I'm going back to the Mun because most of my missions are still Mun-based. Back to the tracking center. Station, whatever it is. And let's go and... Whoa. Whoa, my goodness. The Kerbal that I need to rescue is in a super, super low orbit around the moon. That will be fun. But let's go and fly our satellite into a correct position. So we want to match this tilt here. What I'm going to do is... Let's add a maneuver to... Let's see. We want to... You know, it's going to be easier to maneuver once we get a little bit closer. So I'm going to warp to here. And, I think the easiest way to do this would be... Maybe to circularize first. And then work on matching the orbit. I think that's what I'll do. Alright, so we have a circularization orbit. Let's go and get it. With our electrically dead ship. Okay, cool. It doesn't need to be electrically dead. The funny thing is my solar power panels are blocked by the rockets, so that was just bad planning. Because if they switched positions with the high gain antenna, I could expand them and have them start generating power for me. But instead what I'm going to have to do is use the gimbaling effect of the my rockets to sort of drift me into position. Because basically I... used actually a lot of power. I have a lot of electric charge. But advancing a bunch of time with a probe core that I hadn't set to hibernation was the problem. I didn't hibernate it, and it used a bunch of power during time warps and whatnot. Okay, so this is a burn time of 5 seconds. And it doesn't even need to be all that accurate. It's just a circularization. Done. Now, the best thing I could do is to match the plane first. So the one that is flashing is what we're trying to match. So we are moving this way. I'm going to add a maneuver to match the plane of... the inclination plane of the satellite mission. Ish. Don't need to be perfect. Whoa, 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 whoa. I misclicked. and really went off the rails there. All right. And this both sort of closely matches the plane and the orbit. Right? This is pretty good. Pretty good maneuver. All right. That's my next maneuver. It only costs 90 Delta V. Pretty cheap as far as a maneuver goes. And we'll warp to next maneuver. World first milestone. I am in orbit of Minmus. Actually, we should probably... no, it's too late. I have a full contract. Let's do this. Let's do this little burn here, and then see if we can't get some additional contracts. I'm gonna burn a little bit early. Okay, that's good. So we are doing this mission here. All right, so back to the Space Center. I might be able to increase my admin facility for some money and take on some additional contracts. It's a mission control. Yeah, I can pay for that. And let's see if they have any additional contracts for me. I don't want to decline too many. Science data for surface of Mon, I can do that. All right, I guess not. Going back and finishing up this satellite mission. So, the last thing I need to do is to match it and then disconnect the satellite from my ship. Now, actually, I might be close enough to its orbit that... no, I'm not quite close enough. So let's change my descending node. All right, that matches the plane about as nicely as I can. This is a 26 Delta V burn. And let's warp to next maneuver. Now, the good thing is I should really hibernate my... Oh, well, while we're warping, I can't really hibernate anything. The engines I have are generating power, but the probe core keeps eating my power, so it's like a constant feeding the probe. All right, and this is a very, very gentle burn. Okay, we've basically matched the plane. And then let's create another maneuver and... Nope, that's not what I meant to click. Create another maneuver and just match the orbit the best we can. Like this. Perfect. That is about as close as it's possible to get. Oh, you know what? We are actually... It's telling me that we're actually in the correct position already. Maintain stability for 10 seconds. So what I'm going to do is decouple. And then switch to the probe core. Unhibernate it. Why I can unhibernate it remotely, don't ask. Decouple the probe core. And then I'm going to, on my primary craft, just start flying home, right? So let's go observe the materials bay and all the stuff I brought with me that I thought could generate some science for us. Because we came all the way out here, we might as well get as much science as we can. Can't do seismic data because I'm not actually landed on anything. That's what I thought. some of these science-generating objects don't work everywhere. Okay, we'll do EVA, which will be a world first. Spacewalk around Minmus. Do a little EVA report and reboard. Do a crew report. And then... add a maneuver to bring us back to Kerbal. So we're going to want to maneuver when we're here. Burning that way, I think. Yes. Okay, that puts us in a really weird sort of like polar orbit around Kerbal. There we go. That's a little bit better. Nice and flat. All right. Time to fire up these deer rockets at my next maneuver. So I'm sort of returning my big craft home, my primary one, and then the satellite will adjust itself to be like picture perfect with the orbit it requires, just because it has the extra fuel. All right, I don't need this to be perfect. Whoa, all right. Let's turn on stability control, because I just spun out there real hard without it. I wasn't ready. All right, I'm gonna warp ahead, and let's cancel warp. And then going to my tracking station to switch to my satellite. So you can't really switch to things that you're not close to. So RHD7 relay, that's apparently the name of my satellite. Now I'm going to finish this, oh, maybe it doesn't like my deviation now. Yeah. Crazy enough, the ejection that I had from my primary craft put me in a different enough orbit, so it's very good that I added fuel here. So let's add a maneuver. Oh, control locked. Oh yeah, joy, because I probably have no control here. But lucky for me, I have antenna. So not control locked anymore. And line us up. Alright, that's about picture perfect. I have no idea why someone would want to be in this awkward, strange, somewhat pointless orbit. But I gotta say, my satellite looks like a satellite, doesn't it? Alright, let's warp to next maneuver. And because it's only like an hour away, our other ship is not really getting any closer to Kerbal. Fire up my little engines. We'll have to actually activate it. My little probe core. Okay. That is pretty good. It's probably close enough to count. Come on. Really? Are you telling me it's not? I'd be surprised if this is not close enough, but maybe it's being fussy. It could be. It looks pretty good to me. Alright, fine, fine, fine. You the boss, man. I will adjust it even more. At this point, I can barely even see the differences. Yeah, I can't even really see how my maneuver is really any different than my current path. Maybe it's the tilt. Yeah, it might be the tilt. Slight adjustments. I don't remember it ever being this fussy, though. All right, that's it. Just that teeny amount of burning, and it worked. And we have the contract is complete with money and science as a result. Cool. All right, bye-bye, satellite. We are going to now switch to RHD7. And how much Delta V do we have? We have a lot of Delta V, so let's try a proper planned landing. Circularizing and aerobraking and all that stuff. All that good stuff. I know I'm a little bit over time, but satellites take time, man. All right, this burn time is only 11 seconds, easy peasy, and I'll try to speed up. Try to expedite this process. Doesn't need to be a perfectly circular orbit. Just good enough so I can get home. I'm actually going to lower it even more. I have plenty of fuel, so that's not an issue. All right, next maneuver. Let's finish this one. And next maneuver will be a close circularization. Cool. We basically filled our batteries back up by with our alternator. So now I can actually flip-flop maneuver, which is nice. All right, go ahead and warp to the next maneuver. I'm not even going to wait till I'm exactly at the node. This is really just rough. All right, and then let's warp. Let's land in the daytime so we have something to look at. So we'll have to warp time a bit. Come on, we need it's like midnight at Kerbal Space Center. Guys, can't you just like time shift? If I spin around the planet really fast like Superman, do I reverse time? So that's totally not how it works. Alright, my patience for trying to wait for dawn is diminishing. We'll do a deorbiting burn in just a second. We'll be landing at sunrise. Why not? So here's our deorbiting burn. I can even plan it as a maneuver because we're going to want to go down a little bit and then deorbit. That way we hit Kerbal Space Center a little bit more accurately. Something like that, but closer. All right, it's saying I don't even have enough fuel for this deorbiting burn. That's fine. It'll get me to the ground. And go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And for the remaining 38 Delta V, I'll do a Retrograde Burn. Alright, that's literally as close as I can get. Accelerating time. I was pretty sure that I radially decoupled, but it didn't seem to really work, so I can just right-click them and goodbye. All right, let's come in retrograde, not prograde. We don't need to kill Jebediah for no reason. I am coming in really fast, really hot. Hope I slow down enough, but we are coming in close to Kerbal Space Center. Not perfect, but I did run out of fuel. Doing my really crude adjustments. Coming in pretty fast. Please slow me down. There we go. I always get butterflies when I'm aerobraking. I've done it a lot, but it always sort of makes me nervous. I don't know why. Alright, and we're coming in with some science that we are going to recover from these around the space of Minmus. And our life hangs in the balance of this dinky little parachute. Chunk! And recover. How close did I get? 94.2% is my guess. That is my guess. Come on. $94.2? I was really close. 93.8. Cool. Actually, we recovered a lot of parts. We recovered... Oh, because these seismic accelerometers are super expensive. That's good to know. All right, so we got almost 200 science from that. Now Jebediah is leveled up because he's done a Minmus orbit. Mission control, you're welcome. A lot of our current missions is to go to Minmus and Mun, but I am, alas, out of time. So guys, if you have any tips, tricks, ideas, feedback, anything like that, drop me a line if you enjoyed this episode. Like and subscribe. If you want to chat for whatever reason, hop on Discord or go to Rhadamant.com. And I'll catch you all next time. Thank you all for watching. Adios.